Hi there, Steve Dempster here from Dempster Guitar Studio, and I have one question for you, and that is, are you struggling with your ability to actually form the chords you're making? I have an answer for that coming up next. You know, one of the first skills that a guitarist gets exposed to is the whole idea of how to build and form chords. Because, quite naturally, most players envision themselves strumming away on their guitar. It's one of the most basic skill sets that a guitarist can start with. And of course, from there, they venture out into many different areas of playing. But I want to focus just on the chording aspect today. And I want to specifically focus on what it is about the way a lot of players tend to finger their chords that's absolutely getting in the way of their future progress on the instrument. And what happens is they can be doing this habit so much as they're learning the instrument that they've long since forgotten they're actually doing it. And then they wonder time down the road, why am I still struggling getting to a new chord? Well, let's go to some close-ups and I'll show you what's happening typically for a lot of players. Okay, so here we are with the guitar, and I'm going to just form a chord, typically the way a lot of people do. And so here I go. This is just your plain old C major chord. My hand comes up, fingers go down in place where they're supposed to go, and good. And then you test it out, make sure it sounds okay, and that sounds good, and off to the races. Let's pick another chord. Let's say it's not the C, but the A major chord. So the fingers come in, you build it up, one finger at a time, and away you go. Let's try one more chord. Let's go with G major. So you think G, you come in, you build it up, and off to the races you go. Now there's a problem with this, and the problem resides in this single image. Okay, there's the image right there. The problem is, when you're presented with that picture, it naturally shows you where the first finger should go, where the second, where the third, where the fourth, all of that. It's good information. You need to know that information. And typically, you will build that information up on your fretboard. And here's the thing, though. That very first experience you ever had building that chord will stick in here and in the muscles. It becomes the virgin activity of building that chord. And it sticks really quickly. Before you know it, you go home after your first lesson with a handful of chords potentially, and guess what you're doing? Well, of course you have to for a while in order to get a sense of the landscape on the fretboard and what's going on. But it doesn't stop there. The picture of the chord has given you an unintended impression that the way the chord is built is the way it's presented in the picture. In other words, first finger first, second finger second, third finger third, etc. That, of course, is not the case. What we are looking for is to have all the fingers coming down at once. That's your skill set. How do you do it? Well, first of all, you have to break the original bad habit. Here's the way I get a lot of my students to break that habit. Let's pick on the C chord again. It's my favorite. Okay, so there we are with the C chord. Now, again, here it is. Most people do this. They go with this finger, then that finger, then this finger. And that's quite logical because the first finger is considered quite strong. So there's a tendency to almost unconsciously put that one down first and then follow through. Now here's the problem with this strategy. Once you have one finger in place, it's serving as a crutch to help the next finger find its place. And these two are serving as crutches to help this guy find its place. So you become really quickly dependent on where things are put down in sequence in order to help you figure out whatever else comes next. This is not what you want, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at piano players, when they reach for their chords on a keyboard, you don't see them hunting for the notes one after the other. Pretend there's a keyboard here. You see the hand open to where the notes are because they can visualize those notes. They organize their hand in a certain shape and they go down on the chord easily enough. We need to be doing the same thing. So instead of this, and then maybe moving to G the same way, and then maybe moving to D the same way, or A minor, all of which is happening very unconsciously after a while because that's how you were showing it. What we really want to do is bring the thing up and close the chord in on itself so everything comes down at once, at once, at once, at once. That alone is a very, very significant skill, often not really detailed in the beginning of somebody starting on the guitar. And so months pass, years pass in some cases, where the habit of forming one note after the other like this just sticks, and it sticks very quickly, as I mentioned before. And then, there will come a time when that behavior of putting the fingers down gets in the way of a certain piece of music. It might be that the music's really quick, and you just don't really have time to build the chord. It's so fatiguing. You just want to be able to do this. Grab the shape as you need it to be able to play. Well, of course, some of that skill is going to develop just through time and repetition. But we can push this a little better to make sure that you're not unconsciously stuck on it, in a sense, excuse me. So, here's what I do with my students to help this process unfold. First of all, I have to break apart the old habit. So the way to break apart this habit is to simply rebuild the chord in a different direction or in a different sequence, to shake up your nervous system, so to speak. So instead of typically going first finger, second, third, as per a C chord, I'll get students to start building it 3, 2, 1, or 2, 3, 1. If they're going to put fingers down one after the other, I'm going to get them to put them down in all different sequences, just so that your nervous system feels like each and every sequence is as good as any other. 1, 2, 3 doesn't reign supreme. I could go 3, 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1. So that helps to break apart sort of the scar tissue, if you will, of building the chord like this. Once that sort of settles in and we can, in a sense, start fresh, then I'll start to say to people, well, listen, if you can put one finger down first, followed by a second, followed by a third, why don't we just try to get 2 fingers to come down first? Let's focus on getting those 2, the first 2 of the chord, and then when they're in place, focus on your third and get it there as quickly as you can. So now your chording behavior starts to look a little bit more like 2 and 3. 2 fingers and then third finger. Boom, boom. Instead of boom, 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 it's now boom, boom. You have sped up the process of building the chord already. You're 2/3 of the way there, getting the whole thing to come down at once. Now, we don't stop there. 1 and 2 and then 3. 2 and 3 and then 1. And then the toughest, 1 and 3 and then 2. I get them to do all these combinations to help send the right message to the brain that each of those fingers is just as important as any other. It's not this sequence that reigns supreme. Any combination is as good as any other. This is what the brain is getting. So that's one strategy. It's kind of breaking the scar tissue apart and helping to get the hand sort of back to where it was before it started. It is impossible, by the way, but we get it relatively close. Okay, let's assume that this sort of strategy has been going on for a while. And you can do this for any chord. It's the same for any chord. Now we come to the same chord. I will give them the opportunity to build it the best they can. Sometimes they're still doing it 1, 2, 3. Sometimes it's another combination, which I like. But in any event, they get the chord built. Now here's the important part that I find never gets discussed when helping people learn to play chords. You have the chord in place. Don't have to put any pressure on anything. You're not trying to play it. We're not strumming the chord. You lift the chord. I'm going to go a bit this way here. You lift the chord away a little bit, like this. And your job at that moment is to hold those fingers in that shape. I'm not touching the strings right now. I'm coming back down on the strings. There I am. Now I'm going to lift away from the strings just slightly, not far. It's hard to see. See if I lean in a bit here. Boom. And your job, as soon as that happens, is to concentrate and hold that shape. You should be able to remove the hand from the fretboard. Your thumb is in the back, and there's the shape of the chord. And you should be able to come back in place and put that thing down. It's locked into the hand. The sensation of making this shape requires different muscles, different tendons on different parts of the hand to remember what their individual job is. And by job, I'm thinking this finger curls a lot. See? Curls a lot this way. This finger curls a little less, and that is a little less still. And you have to remember that. So it locks into your hand. And there's a feeling of that chord in terms of tension that your brain remembers. This is the key that's going to allow you to stop doing one finger at a time and paying attention to the feel of the shape, not just the look of it, the feel of the shape. There's the feel of a D chord. I am not touching anything right now. There's the feel of it. It's been wired into the hand. And then I come in and it all falls in place. There's the feel of my A chord. I use all three fingers typically. Boom. There's my E. Here's my G. You can see I'm not touching anything. But there's the, I'm not flipping you off here anywhere. There's the chord. That's it. The chord is not this, this, and then this. The chord is that shape in your hand with the tensions that your brain remembers to help you figure that out. And remember that what caused this in the first place, in my opinion, is that image of the chord that got you started. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got chords that have been built out of habits of going one finger at a time, and we're trying to get rid of that by replacing it with getting all the fingers down at once. And I've given you some strategies to help with that, mostly in terms of breaking the scar tissue up. That's a metaphor for just trying to get it back to normal by building the chord in different combinations instead of 1, 2, and 3, all possible combinations, which will feel awkward, by the way, which is good. That means your brain is being tested. I like that. And then once the chord is formed, then you can start to lift the chord a little bit away from the fretboard, and your job at that point is to hold that shape in place. Just using this, telling those muscles to hold that shape. That's what you want to have in your hand, and you're going to do the same for G or D or any other chord that you're interested in playing. So I hope that gives you some tool to work with to help you fix this very prevalent experience of building chords. I just call it one-finger-itis. And we have to get past that point in order for you to progress on the guitar. There's no way around it. And unless that gets observed by perhaps your teacher or yourself, then you're stuck doing it the way you've always done it. And unfortunately, the way you've always done it is sabotaging your progress. I hope this helps. Steve Dempster, out for now. Play it right. Play for life. I will see you next time. If you found it valuable, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'll continue to put some content out like this for you, and stay tuned for more.